Why is it time to install GCash and Paymaya? And where can a consumer like you use it in 2022? Let's find out in today's episode of Digitalks, where we also celebrate the World Consumer Rights Day. Today's episode is produced in celebration of the World Consumer Rights Day, together with 100 different countries all over the world. But that's not all. There's more. The DTI Consumer Protection Group, through its Consumer Policy and Advocacy Bureau, is conducting the Consumer Care webinar series where the following topics are discussed and may be viewed in the Consumer Care Facebook page. In March 1, you can view the Consumer Protection and Digital Financial Services. In March 8, we did the Consumer Protection and Security Policies of e-payment platforms. And tomorrow, March 16, we will be talking about tips for taxpayers and online filing of taxes. Ooh, interesting. In March 22, we'll be talking about consumer tips in managing credit cards and maintaining a good credit standing. And lastly, in March 29, we'll be talking about a guidebook in basic banking and financial transactions. So, GCash and Paymaya. GCash and Paymaya are two of the more popular e-payment platforms and widely used in the Philippines. But why is it time to adopt and use these digital payment platforms right now, and where can you use it? What is the practical use of these two platforms? Let's look at its features. In Paymaya, we can send and receive money. We call that the peer-to-peer transaction. If you have Paymaya and another person has a Paymaya, you can send money through that platform. Very quick. Bills payment. You can pay bills in government transactions, in your credit card, utilities, and more. Electronic load is also a loading service. Scan to pay, you can pay via QR code. And there's also a bank transfer feature where you can add cash to any of your banks, any of your connected banks, whether it's BPI, BDO, Metrobank, and any other banks available. Smart Padala, you can send money through authorized centers. And you can also use Paymaya as an electronic debit card. For GCash, there are also another features. In addition to the features that Paymaya has, GCash has some other features which you may or may not use. Also, in GCash, you can also send and receive money. It's a peer-to-peer service. You can also pay bills, much like Paymaya. Electronic load is also available. You can load Globe, Smart, on any other network using your GCash. There's also a pay QR feature. You print a QR code and people can pay you using that QR code. There's also the bank transfer feature where you can transfer money to other accredited banks. And you can save money via the CIMB. And other features that are in GCash which are not in Paymaya, which you may or may not use, include the G-Credit. It's a loan service. The G-Insure, where you can purchase insurance for dengue or COVID-19. Through the partnership with Singlife. And there's also the G-Invest, where you can invest money, and they're partnering with the Atram service for this. And the more popular GCash Forest, where you can plant a tree using points you have earned in your usage of GCash. So one of the concerns of any digital consumer is safety. Are these platforms safe to use? For Paymaya, it's safe. Why? Because it's secured by a password, by a biometrics, either iris or eye detection. Face detection is also available. And there's the OTP when you are using Paymaya in a device other than the one you currently use or the one that is registered to the platform. For GCash, it's more or less similar. You can use the MPIN, the biometrics is also available, face detection is also available, iris detection is also available, fingerprint scan, and also the OTP, but only for when you are using GCash in a phone other than the one you currently use. The user base is more or less the same. Paymaya closed the year 2020 with a 28 million user base, whereas GCash closed the year 2020 with 33 million user base. But I would like to contemplate on this detail because in Paymaya, you can only register for a Paymaya account once for the same number, whereas in GCash, you can register twice or even thrice. In Paymaya, it actually asks you to delete one and just keep the other. So the users here are actually very much comparable. Another feature where the two are different is the QR mechanism or the QR feature. In Paymaya, you can use the QR only if you are a merchant. For GCash, if you are a merchant, you can use it, but if you are an individual only, you can also use the QR feature. So this is more targeted towards both the merchant, the seller, and the user, the end user, the consumer, like you and me. For service promotion, both have very similar promotions. They do raffles, they do cashback, and more. But the practical use for both, it's very similar because if you notice, if there's a Paymaya QR code in a department store or supermarket, most likely there's also the GCash. They're very much competitive and very much comparable in availability of use. But where else can you use the platform? If you are a digital shopper, you buy apparel or you buy gadgets in Lazada and Shopee, not to worry, because Paymaya and GCash are available payment platforms there. If you also frequently buy food in Food Panda and Grab Food, Paymaya and GCash is also there. But where else? Well, if you go to Robinson's Place or any local supermarket or any local department store, most likely you would also find the QR of Paymaya and GCash there. And if you don't like long queues, you can also pay your bills like utilities, cable, internet, maybe even government services such as SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig. You can pay using GCash and Paymaya. So, these platforms, these are for the consumer who does not like bringing wads of cash when they go around the city. This is for the consumer who wants to track their expenses without having to write down in a small notebook. This is for the digital consumer. This is for you. This is for me. That's it for today's episode of Digitalks. Once again, this is your Digi Guy, Anton G, signing off.